All right, great. Thank you, council members. I'm just going to share my screen here quickly so you can see our presentation. Are you able to see the slide deck here, Tom? Everything?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Okay.
Thank
Perfect.
you.
Thank you. All right, council members, thank you. As Tom said, my name is Jason Newmeyer, survey specialist here with Polco, and I am happy to present a summary of the findings here from Durango's National Community Survey, or the NCS. And before I begin, on behalf of myself and my Polco coworkers, I really would like to thank Tom, who was our primary contact throughout survey development and the implementation process. He provided thoughtful and detailed feedback and really helped to communicate how important this survey was to the entire Durango community. And that hard work and due diligence really shows here in the number of residents who engage in this process. So first and foremost, thank you there. A little bit about who we are. First, about Polco. Polco's online community engagement polling platform really provides local governments and other public sector leaders with the information tools that they need. Today, over 600 organizations nationwide use Polco for strategic planning, for budgeting, and for empowering resident voices. Ultimately, we make civil, verified community engagement online not only possible, but accessible to all. NRC, the National Research Center, and Polco merged in 2019 to more effectively serve local governments and to project resident voices. The National Research Center at Polco gives local governments and other public sector organizations the data that they need to make informed decisions. NRC is best known for our national benchmarking surveys, such as the National Community Survey that was completed here with Durango, including the NCS, the National Employee Survey, and the Community Assessment for Older Adults, among others. In addition, we are also exclusive partners with ICMA and the National League of Cities. We work with the Alliance for Innovation, and we also work closely with the American Association for Public Opinion Research, UW-Madison here in Wisconsin, and the Hoover Institute at Stanford University. So a little bit about the NCS here. The National Community Survey is a standardized 5-page comprehensive survey, and it allows municipalities to assess resident opinions about their community and about local governance. The NCS focuses on these 10 facets of livability that are characterized here in a number of questions throughout the survey. These facets have been identified through decades of extensive survey research as those that are most impactful to the overall quality of life of your residents. These facets also tend to align with a lot of the municipal departments within the city, making it easy for staff to quickly find the information that is of most importance to them in the final report of results. Now, before we dive into those results, I do want to emphasize that there are a variety of ways that these results can be used. Most commonly, we see jurisdictions that we work with use the survey data to monitor trends over time of resident opinion, to measure government performance and ratings of public trust, and to inform their budgeting processes and their strategic planning. Our results also allow you to benchmark your community's specific characteristics against those same characteristics within other communities using our benchmark database. And our hope is ultimately that as we present these results to you today, it will spur ideas for what could be done with these results or where you may want to dig deeper. So our benchmarking database here is really the biggest advantage to doing surveys here with us at Polco. NRC was the first organization to conceive of the idea to create benchmarks for public opinion for local governments. This allows jurisdictions like Durango to compare ratings of your services to ratings of similar services within other communities. Today, there are currently 600 comparison communities in our database, and they represent the opinions of more than 50 million residents. So next, a little bit about how we set up this survey here and the most recent implementation of the NCS for Durango. All households within Durango were eligible to participate in this survey. A list of households within the zip code serving Durango was purchased based on updated lists from the United States Postal Service, and then using the GIS boundary files provided by the city, addresses located outside of Durango's boundaries were removed from that list. And from that, a random sample of 3,000 addresses were selected to receive the NCS survey. The 3,000 selected households received mailings beginning on June 27th, and the survey remained open for 6 weeks. The first mailing was a postcard, which invited the households to participate in the survey online. And the next mailing contained a cover letter with instructions, a 5-page survey questionnaire, and the postage paid return envelope. Both the postcard and the cover letter also included the web link and QR codes to give residents the opportunity to respond online so that should they so choose. And then finally, a final reminder postcard was sent and asked those who had not completed the survey to do so. A total of 723 completed surveys were received from these efforts, providing a response rate of 26% and a margin of error of plus or minus 4 percentage points. We then compared the demographic profile of survey respondents to that of all adults living in Durango using the most recent Census and American Community Survey data, and we weighted the final survey results. Weighting is a survey research best practice, and it really helps to improve the representativeness of the results in the final report. All right. So with that, we'll turn our attention to an overview of the results next, and we'll start by talking about some of those facets of livability that we identified earlier. In the survey itself, we asked 2 questions that directly address those 10 facets of community livability, and the first is found here on the screen. The first asked residents to rate the quality of each of these facets, and you can see the resulting comparison to our national benchmark in the shading on the chart. The overall quality you can see here of Durango's parks and recreation system and its natural environment scored above national averages, while the other 8 scored similar to our national benchmarking trends. The second question that we ask in regards to these 10 facets is centered on how important residents think it is for the community to focus on these facets in the coming 2 years. So we asked both about the quality and about the importance of these 10 facets, and we use these answers to create a quality importance matrix, which you can see here on the next slide. We use this quality importance matrix, which is also found in the PDF of the report, to help determine which areas are of relatively higher importance and lower quality to residents, those that are located in the lower right-hand quadrant as pictured. And this chart is ultimately just one of many ways to interpret the data and can be used to help identify key findings and to help a community determine which areas may need additional focus or additional resource allocation, and which others are performing well by comparison. So in taking a step back and looking at the entire questionnaire here, there are 117 survey items for which residents provided evaluative ratings in this NCS. 16 of those received ratings that were higher than the national benchmark here in Durango. 84 received similar ratings, and 17 received lower ratings. Ratings are considered similar if they are within 10 points of the national average, and higher or lower if they are more than 10 points different from that average. If you're interested in the full list and seeing which are higher and which are lower, you can see that for all 117 questions, starting in the PDF report on page 27. That's the national benchmarking table. So moving now into the highlights of our findings, I do want to point out a few things that stood out to us as survey researchers. There is a lot of additional data in the full report that we won't cover today, but today's presentation will really focus on a few areas that we found to be most noteworthy within Durango's survey results. So our first key finding here, residents appreciate Durango's natural environment and the overall recreational opportunities. When asked about aspects of the community that the city should focus on in the next 2 years, over 8 in 10 residents prioritize the overall quality of the natural environment as an essential or very important area of focus. Over 9 in 10 Durango residents also reported excellent or good ratings when asked to assess the overall quality of the natural environment in Durango today, a number that came in higher than our national benchmarks. Other questions that were related to Durango's natural environment also scored higher than the benchmark, including Durango's water resources, Durango's open space, and the preservation of natural areas. The Parks and Recreation system was also prioritized, with over 8 in 10 residents prioritizing the overall quality of Durango's Parks and Recreational system as essential or very important areas of focus, and 90% of residents rated the current Parks and Rec system as excellent or good. These are very high numbers. Once again, many of the other questions related to parks and recreation scored above the national average, and you can see them shaded there on the chart. Recreational opportunities, fitness opportunities, the availability of walking paths, and the city's recreation centers and facilities. The second key finding here identified by our survey researchers, Durango's residents feel safe and experience a high quality of life. About 8 in 10 Durango residents, rated Durango as a place to live and the overall quality of life within the city as excellent or good. A similar proportion also gave positive ratings to the overall image and the overall reputation of Durango, while over 8 in 10 stated that it was very or somewhat likely that they would remain in Durango for the next 5 years. Many of these quality of life ratings are correlated, probably, with the positive ratings provided by safety topics within Durango. Nearly 8 in 10 residents provided excellent or good marks to their overall feelings of safety within the city. Additionally, over 9 in 10 respondents reported feeling very or somewhat safe in their neighborhoods during the day and in Durango's downtown and commercial areas during the day, both in line with benchmark comparisons. 84% of respondents reported similar feelings of safety from violent crime, and 77% felt safe from property crime. The lone measure of safety to come in under the benchmark was feelings of safety from flood, fire, or other natural disaster. However, many of the safety services received strong marks from residents. Fire services received the highest score, with more than 9 in 10 evaluating this service as excellent or good. Ambulance and EMS services, as well as fire prevention and education, were positively evaluated by more than 80% of respondents. While police services, animal control, and emergency preparedness received excellent or good ratings from around 7 in 10 residents. Now, even amidst these strong scores, this facet of livability, that being safety, received one of the highest ratings of importance from residents. 80% of Durango residents stated that safety was an essential or very important focus area for the city. Key finding number 3, many aspects of the local economy did receive positive reviews, but residents show some concern about general affordability and their own economic outlook. A majority of residents, 54%, positively rated the quality of the city's overall economic health in line with benchmark comparisons. Over 9 in 10 respondents provided excellent or good marks to Durango as a place to visit, and another 3/4 positively evaluated the vibrancy of the downtown and commercial areas, both higher than national averages. The overall quality of business and, go ahead. Oh, maybe there was no question.
No question, I don't think.
Oh, sorry. I'll keep going. I thought somebody.
Thank you.
Yes. The overall quality then of business and service establishments received similar scores, with 74% reporting excellent or good, while 54% gave favorable marks to the variety of business and service establishments in Durango, both on par with national benchmarking. Now, while most of these evaluations received related to Durango's economy were similar to national benchmarks, results did indicate that residents were less optimistic about their own personal economic outlook and the affordability of some resources within the city. When asked what impact the economy would have on their family income in the next 6 months, only 16% anticipated that it would be very or somewhat positive. The cost of living in Durango also received positive marks from only around 5% of respondents, and other measures of affordability also showed signs of resident concern. Fewer than 4 in 10 residents positively evaluated the availability of affordable quality food, and only 12% reported excellent or good scores to the availability of affordable quality childcare and or preschool. In addition, as you can see on the slide here, just 3% of respondents felt favorably about the availability of affordable quality housing in Durango, much lower than results in other communities. So overall, residents are satisfied with the local current economy in Durango. However, the high rankings of importance and the low rankings for affordability and some of these other forward-looking indicators suggest that this is an area warranting the city's continued focus. And then fourth and finally, alternative forms of transportation are a community strength in Durango and are utilized at high rates by residents. Most measures of mobility within Durango receive scores similar to or higher than national comparison communities, with 2/3 providing positive reviews of the overall quality of the transportation system within the city. Alternative forms of transportation received even higher marks. The ease of walking and the ease of travel by bicycle both received positive valuations that surpassed our national benchmarks, with scores of 81% and 78% respectively. Another 6 in 10 residents reported positive evaluations of bus and transit services in Durango, again exceeding national comparisons. Further evidence of the strength of these alternative modes of transportation is really found here in the usage rates that respondents reported. Over 8 in 10 Durango residents stated that they had walked or biked instead of driving over the past 12 months, while another 2/3 reported carpooling with others over that same time period. Finally, around 1/3 of respondents reported that they had used public transportation instead of driving over the last year. Each of these results were higher than national averages, with walking or biking and carpooling scoring more than 10 percentage points higher than other communities around the country. So our 4 summary points, our big key findings, are listed here on the screen. Number 1, residents appreciate Durango's natural environment and the recreational opportunities available to them. Number 2, Durango residents feel safe, and that safety experience leads to them experiencing a high quality of life. Number 3, many aspects of the local economy did receive positive reviews, but residents do show some concerns about affordability and their own economic outlook. And then 4th and finally, alternative forms of transportation are a community strength in Durango and are utilized at high rates by residents. Now, as you continue to discuss these results internally, we have put together some question prompts here that we think can help to facilitate the conversation, not only about what this report shows, but also about the areas that you may want to dig deeper. And speaking of digging deeper and continued engagement, the online version of this survey was hosted on Polco, as we said earlier. And after completing that online survey, residents were asked if they would like to join your online Polco panel. You can share new questions through social media, email, local media, and other channels as appropriate, and ultimately continue to engage with this online community panel by asking follow-up questions to this community survey using our curated library of questions, polls, and surveys. Or you can ask about hot topics or new policy issues as they arise. Currently, Durango has 369 panel participants that are waiting to be engaged with on Polco. You can continue to ask questions to them and engage in dialogue with them, while also encouraging others to join this digital panel too. So with that, I am happy to open it up to any questions that you might have about this process, about the report, or about continued engagement with Polco. And I can turn it back to Tom if needed as well.
Mayor and Council, just a couple of things to kind of reiterate on this. On the survey of when you look at the results, it's a snapshot in time. The most important part is the follow-up. So when you look at surveys and making sure that you do them and kind of looking at doing this every 2 years, that's when you're able to really be able to understand, did it go up? Did it go down? The first one's a little tougher because you don't know if it was taken in 2 years ago, what the results would have been then. So this is really a good chance to lay a foundation and a framework to see to hear and listen to some of the concerns and some of the things that we're doing really well. Really helps us, I think, going into our strategic plan retreat coming up here in March to kind of look at some of the goals and outlines and some of the objectives the council may have, but a really good step in the right direction in laying a framework and then outlining some objectives. And then in 2 years, when we do it again, we'll be able to see what may have grown, what have we improved, or what areas maybe we need to still focus on. So just wanted to add that as a summary at the end of the survey. And if you have any questions, I'm sure the gentleman will be here to answer.
Thank you so much. How do we want to start? Questions from council?
Will there be an opportunity, maybe Tom, this might be a better question for you, like maybe for another opportunity 2 years from now to, if you rated this, in the lower or negative or very negative category, like what is the caveat to them? Like, hey, this is why I scored it so low, whether it's a personal experience or their overall, like, what they perceive as that being, I'm looking at, economic health at 54%. I'm sure, to me, that's an alarming statistic. I mean, 46% of people think that we don't have a decent economic outlook for Durango and La Plata County. So why is there a way to ask them, like, hey, why do you feel this way? Is that possible to even offer some of that, maybe summary, or maybe this follow up what we're talking about, a better way to kind of get towards that?
Not to pawn this off on Jason, but I guess that'd be the question for you, Jason, which is within the additional data that is provided in greater detail on the survey results, is that kind of information available to kind of mine to further hone an answer for this type of question?
Yeah, it certainly is. So in the actual PDF of the results itself, did the screen switch to the PDF here for you, or are you still seeing
it did.
Okay, great. So you can see in the PDF here itself, if you scroll actually to the bottom, you can get the complete frequencies of each question that was asked. So we'll give you the number and the percentage for excellent, good, fair, poor. So all of the results are reported as percent positive, meaning that 54% number that was quoted is the number of residents who said excellent or good. And you can see the full breakdown of excellent, good, fair, poor in that complete set of frequencies. And I would reiterate that probably the best way to dig deeper into that is to continue to engage. We have an excellent economic development survey that's already curated on Polco, and you have the continued engagement use of the platform. So you could go back to those 369 panel participants and ask them to respond to the survey that focuses more specifically on economic development. And we can make custom questions in there, edits, make it align more closely to what you're looking for. But if you're looking for the data for this results or this survey, it starts on page 32, but continued engagement is really the best route forward.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
I thank you for that presentation and the survey. I think this is a really good survey because it captures, even though it's a point in time, the whole community instead of a select group. I mean, a lot of these findings in the survey are similar to what I would have expected, and it's not very positive, I think, because as the one that Councillor Woodruff explained, we have low scores in economy, on place of work, employment opportunities, cost of living, mobility concern, very low parking, and this is known, and the parking management might not be the best way to address it if that is the community-wide survey result. And even on spots where we score high, like the recreational and the walking and the cycling, we should ensure as a council that we improve it even better. So not just the bad ones, but even the cycling. Another low one was the repairs on roads and sidewalks. And I'm thinking, I drive on 3rd Avenue and there's a big pothole already and the winter isn't even started. But and another one here is affordable quality food. There's the Good Food Collective and the La Plata Food Equity Coalition. They are, maybe we should, and same for childcare. Maybe we should work harder to work with these great organizations in our community to address them and provide the tools and the financial resources, maybe the Mason Child Center. So I look forward to seeing how these survey results get translated into parts of the strategic plan and how we can do better in addressing the low scores as well as the ones where we have it for free, basically, the recreational and the nature environment. One of the things that really stuck out to me, and maybe that's a question to you, is I was very disappointed, but realistically expecting it, the low scores on the governance. And hopefully our council takes note of that. The low score for the direction Durango is taking, treating all residents fairly, confidence in government, open and transparency, welcoming resident involvement, acting in the best interest of the community, informing residents about issues in the community, and honesty. we need to do a lot better there, a lot better. And in the survey, I think it puts a benchmark with other communities. But if we score 40%, I think that's not acceptable.
There were just two quick notes there. I don't know if there was a direct question, but I'll take the floor while I have it here. One great place to see the overview, as I showed in the slide deck, is this quality importance matrix that you see on page 9. This really allows you to compare what your residents think is the most important running on that horizontal axis, and then what is of the highest quality running on the vertical axis. So things down there in the bottom right corner are areas that residents think are very important and that they may have rated lower than other facets in that area. And then in regards to the governance scores, which you can see, it looks like starting on page 11 here, we have seen general trends since the end of about 2021, 2022 of governance scores declining briefly after COVID. Local governance ratings have come down on the whole, which you can see here, though, you're still being rated to the last 5 years of those 600 communities. So this is a good cross section of the last 5 years. And you can see the benchmark scores here on the right. So sometimes it's helpful to take in the benchmark scores. Sometimes it's helpful to take in the overall percentage. Those are the pros and cons that obviously you as a council have to weigh. But just to point out those two areas for you.
Yeah, thank you. I think the results speak for themselves. I hope everybody sees this survey.
Alrighty, thank you, Jason, for the survey. There wasn't anything out of the ordinary after I read this whole thing. It seems like it presents what has been in Durango, where we spent a lot of time on the recreational aspects of our quality of life, and that shows in this survey. And I see that we do have to work at our diversity issues and our ethnic makeup from the respondents of the survey, because, you know, when I look at 91% white responding to the survey, you know, that's like, wow, maybe, you know, the outreach to people who are non-white didn't happen. So that's a little bit disappointing. And also the scores on diversity, as Councillor Bozeman mentioned, those were also very low. And I don't know if when you did the survey, if you had any way to indicate the fact that, you know, that the city doesn't promote diversity that well, and that's evident by the vote last week of not reinstating the Diversity Commission, and also the fact that we closed down public participation from city boards before the previous council resigned their commission. So maybe if we go forward with this survey, in a couple of years, we also make sure we try to include that kind of questioning, because, you know, to me, being a person of color and seeing these kind of statistics, it doesn't look like we moved forward at all. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. So I think you're referencing here the weighting table, which you can see on page 4. So I do think this is an important point of clarification. So you can see the first column here is our unweighted results. So you're right in the number of people that responded. You can see here 91% of the people who responded were white only, or white alone is the way the census frames that. So the first column is our raw results. The target number comes from your community characteristics. So we get those numbers from the US Census and from the American Community Survey, those results that come in. And then we weight the data. So the results that you're seeing are using demographic breakdowns of this middle column. So we will turn up the voices of some groups we know don't respond at higher levels, young renters. We also oversample into those people who live in multifamily homes because we need to get more multifamily home respondents in this group. So when you're looking at the results, there are two ways to view it. You can view the raw results, which are here, and that's found at the end of the report, or all of the percentages that you see throughout the entire report for each facet are based on the weighted numbers. And we certainly do have a diversity, equity, and inclusion survey if you did want to include a follow-up in our engagement afterwards to those panel participants. We can certainly talk about how to get that out. Again, we have almost 400 Durango residents who are ready to respond to Polco surveys and polls. So we can put that together too, if that's something you're interested in.
Okay, that sounds great. Hey,
Yeah.
I'm wondering, when you say the raw results and the unweighted results, does that put back into the survey results the category that you eliminated by I don't know? Is that also included in those results, or is that eliminated also?
In the full raw results, you will get the don't know numbers as well. Throughout the report, we exclude the don't know numbers. So the numbers you're seeing are just the people who had an opinion on the certain question, and it's based on the weighted numbers. So based on the demographics of the broader community.
And then how did you determine what weighted average you used?
Yeah, so we actually pull those numbers directly from the census from 2020 and then from the 2022 American Community Survey. So broad surveys that are happening every year within the community.
Okay, so those are national standards.
Correct, but they're for Durango itself. We only use the respondents from Durango. Yeah. Yeah, good question. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Real quick.
Go ahead.
Hey, Jason, can you walk counselors through and also me, typically when you're looking at some of these DEI components regarding community surveys within a larger metropolitan area, isn't that typically where you would be looking at specific precincts to make sure that you had a better representation, and that necessarily wasn't available in Durango, I believe, right?
Yeah, we certainly can do that. If there is a way in which we want to kind of subdivide the community. Some people will do, north of X street or in this local neighborhood. And we can divide up by area and report out by area. It does not really allow us to oversample into certain regions. If you think there's an area that might be of lower response, we try to take that into account in other ways through our sampling process with the USPS. But if that is something that we want to do moving forward, we can certainly work with our GIS team and try to, carve up Durango in such a way that we can see the results by area and try to compare the demographic breakdowns that way too. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, thanks.
Jason, I think or Tom, I think I saw it potentially in the agenda doc, but can you remind us how much the survey costs? First question, and how long it takes from start to finish to get the survey data?
Yeah, the total cost. Well, go ahead, Jason.
I was going to say, I can answer the second question. I'm not sure what the contracted cost was, but the second question is, it usually takes about 18 weeks from start to finish to get the entire mailing materials, sample, data collection, and analysis done. But in that contract, you also have continual engagement in an online only style through that panel, again, of the 400 residents. And I'll turn it back over for the numbers.
Yeah, for the numbers, it was $23,550. That's actually for a 2-year term, which gives us 1 year of doing the community survey. And then the second year is using their platform for additional surveys if we need to.
Great. So just a couple thoughts I have. Definitely, I think it's a good step for us to be taking and using as a benchmark. I see it as good for accountability. Seeing how well we're meeting the needs of and expectations of our residents. I think we can use it, as he was saying, for data-driven decision-making, informing policy and resource allocation, prioritizing projects. I think it's a good way to foster community engagement. And as I could see in some of the data, it's good for performance evaluation of various areas within our departments, identifying areas of excellence as well as those that need improvement, and for long-term planning and our strategic planning. The key findings to me were, like Councilor Yazzie said, I think something that we all would have kind of expected. But it also does show me that, the concern about affordability, that some of the things we've taken, some of the steps we've taken as a city to address that with, we just had the Residences of Durango opening, which was supported by the majority of council. And so I was really happy to see some steps taken there, as well as our Housing Innovation Division, supported again by the majority of council, trying to focus on these areas to see if, we can project by project start meeting some of these needs. It was interesting for me to see the information around transit. I know that we've done quite a bit of effort around, providing free transit through the summer, which was well received, but even still 6 out of 10 positive. I know we try hard to increase our headways and the frequency. I know it's a budget issue, but that stuck out to me as well. And some questions I had about the survey itself one was around environmental sustainability. I was really trying to see if people thought that enough steps are being done to address and promote sustainability within our region. And then also with some of the changes we've made around community engagement, I think it might be helpful over time to, ask some specific questions if we could, going forward, such that we could benchmark and see how we're improving. Questions such as, have you been engaged with local government initiatives? And then, do you feel your input is valued and considered in local decision-making? Just some really specific questions I think would help us target that as we continue to move forward with our community engagement.
Sure. If I may, Mayor and Council, I kind of alluded to it before, but I think it might need to be highlighted a bit on here of, it's a data point. It's a statistically valid data point. It shows kind of where we are on some of these objects and things, but I'd be careful to make any judgments on this quick first survey because we don't know where we were 2 years ago, right? So 2 years ago, these scores could have been a lot better. They could have been a lot worse. And so it's hard to take a snapshot in time and then say like, oh, there's something here. We don't know. It could have been an improving from where we were 2 years ago, or it could be a decrease. So that's the important part of that second part of that survey of knowing how are we doing? What is that trend going? Because right now it really is a snapshot in time. And I think what you're looking at in regards to some of those general parts of really looking, and if we're in the similar part of benchmarks of other cities, we're struggling just like some other cities in some areas of it. Yeah. Affordability being one of them. I mean, if you look at what has happened since just 2020 in the economy with COVID, inflation, cost of living, being able to buy a house, childcare, all of these things we're struggling with, and people are feeling a lot of different pressures. And I'm not sure we'll ever find out what's the exact one. Right. But I think when you look at the world today and news media and articles, you look at the economy, and I don't think everyone really feels absolutely excited of where this is going. But as the economy usually gets better, results get better. The other part of that is with your governance side of it. When you look at governance across the country and how it looks, and every time you look at national news and local news, there's always a clash or something going through. And so that also hurts a little bit. Now, does that mean we should take these and say like, no? I was like, no, I look at them and I saw most of them are within the benchmark. It shows there's areas that we need to improve, but we don't know. This is the way to show what we're going to do as we move forward, if it's actually moving the needle in the right way or not. Right. And so I think it's a good part for us to take a look at a brave step in regards to, we're going to go out there, we're going to see how we reset ourselves on this foundation and then move forward with it. It's a very similar conversation that I had with our directors about 2 years ago when we had our first employee survey, of being careful in how you receive that information, because maybe trust is low in your department, but maybe 2 years ago it was much lower than it was now, or maybe it was much better. So we really are just seeing that's something to focus on as we go into our next one in 2 years. That then is really going to tell the story of how did we knew where we started and how have we done on those 2 years portions of it. So I would just kind of keep this as it's a very good data point to have, but understanding it's a data point, it's a snapshot in time. People fill it out at different parts of what's going on. And one day they may have been really mad about a zoning issue. One day they may have been really happy about something like a Parks and Recreation groundbreaking. And a lot of these things in current times will influence in how people do surveys. So just a part for us to always make sure that we're continuously checking in a tool in our community engagement plan.
I completely agree. And I think your point is very well taken, that this is the first time we've really done it at this level. citywide. Like Tom said, we've done it within departments, but this is a good first. I don't disagree that this is that these data points are they're informative and they're a good basis to begin. And I think it's a good process going forward for all the reasons you discussed. And I know we're focusing on many of these issues. I know, around governance that's been a big part of our locally within the city staff with the customer service and attempts at teamwork and all of our values that we're really, really focusing on. So hopefully we'll see some of that over 2, 4, and 6 years. Yes.
Yes. Hey, Jason, I have one more question. Why was the number 3,000 chosen for sending out the mailings to the survey participants?
Yeah, that's a great question. So over time, that number has actually slowly increased as, unfortunately, we know response rates have decreased. So 3,000 is a number we use so that if we hit our response rate goal of at least 15%, and I will just say Durango's response rate of 26% was one of the highest I've seen in a while. That allows us to get to our margin of error of at least plus or minus 5%. So it's a methodological distinction. We really want to make sure we can get you numbers that you can trust and that don't have margins of error that are huge, right? Because then what does it really tell you? So we choose 3,000 just to make sure we can get you results that are statistically valid and have that the smallest margin of error as possible.
Great. Other counselor questions or comments?
I guess I'll just finish up. I think this gives me hope that we have some really good opportunities to build on successes. And for us as a body, a council body, to enact sound policy to really shape the operational decision making for how we operate as a municipality. So I, for one, am, while some things are like, oh, crud, like, what are we going to do? I think it gives us ample opportunity to really be better. Data is neither good nor bad. It's just, it is what it is. And now it gives us a better roadmap and guidepost to make good sound decisions and policies to really reflect what our values are. So thank you for the time, Jason. I look forward to where we see this grow over the next 2 years.
Great, thank you so much. And I'm happy to follow up. The last slide there, which I don't know if we got to, has my email. So if anybody has direct questions, feel free to reach out. And I'm sure, Tom, you and I will reconnect here shortly to debrief and talk about engagement moving forward.
Great. Excellent. Thanks so much, Jason. We really appreciate your help. Tom, did you want to say something?
Well, I was just thinking about your comments on community engagement, and short of including a question dedicated on the survey when Clancy gets back, we can recircle back with her and think about, we have the platform for a year, and
right,
in the interim using it in that manner. So we're kind of on the micro level to get those answers as opposed to the macro, which I think is one way to address it.
Okay, great. Yeah. Thank you. Excellent. Thanks again, Jason. We really appreciate your help.
Great. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your meeting.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.